Hi and welcome back to a new video. I'm Susanne from Susie's Journal Adventure, and today's video is a little bit different from my usual ones. Normally I share everything about art journaling, journal binding and ephemera making. Look at all those goodies here. And all things paper crafting. But lately I've been getting more and more questions about sewing on paper because I love sewing on paper. Obviously, you see threads everywhere on my projects and in my journals as well. You know, questions about what needle I use, my machine settings, my bobbin tension, which sewing machine I have, what thread I use, and so on. So today I'm finally going to show you my sewing machine setup and answer as many of your questions as I can. I'll also show you a new sewing tool I just bought for my machine, and together we'll test out my new neon thread. Along the way, I'll share a few of my favorite tips for sewing on paper. And let me tell you one thing right away. Sewing on paper is not rocket science. You don't need any sewing experience, and you definitely don't have to take sewing classes. Anyone can sew a simple straight, or even better, wonky stitch. I love wonky stitches. So let's get started. So let me at first show you the situation of my studio desk and the desk where I have my sewing machine. So this is the area here where I create. This might look a little bit messy, to be honest. But let me tell you, this is actually a very, very clean state now that you can see here. Yeah, so I'm sitting here and this is where I do all my creative things, you know. This is all of my inspiration and happy mail from friends, from people that inspire me. I have here a stool on which I sit here. And this table here is adjustable in height. So I can also put the stool here under the desk and lift this table, and then I can create while standing. And I love that flexibility. And I can easily switch to this working station here. I have a stool here as well. I take a seat here and then I can easily sew. Let me turn on the sewing machine, and this is the view from here. So my sewing machine is a Bernina. This is a Swiss brand. It's the B330. I used to sew baby clothes and children's clothing, so I've had this machine for quite a while now. I think approximately 15 years. I also own I had to look the word up, a serger. I hope this is the right word, a overlock machine, although I honestly haven't used it in several years. My absolute favorite thing to sew though were bags and zippered pouches. I love them. Let me show you some of them. So these are some of the zipper pouches that I still have, and I have way too many of them. But I loved sewing them in all different kinds of variations and sizes. This one I love very, very much. This is, you know, here is, you know, place for so many things. It's incredible how much you can fit in here. Love that. Or this one for pencils or brushes. It has 2 pockets here. This one I love as well. It has 3 zippers. Love that. This tiny one. Yeah, then a totally different one. Love that. So, as you can see, I was totally into zipper pouch sewing. I am a self-taught sewer. Is that the right word? I learned sewing actually by watching YouTube videos. Yeah, I didn't go to a class or to a workshop. I just watched YouTube and then thought, okay, this shouldn't be that difficult. And yeah, I loved it so much, but now I can combine obviously sewing with paper, and that is even more beautiful and fun. And yeah, combining those mediums is just totally right up my alley. Okay, back to the sewing machine and all the supplies you need. I have everything that I need here on this small shelf. And these are my sewing needles. So for sewing on paper, I simply use a regular universal needle. Of course, there are special needles for all kinds of fabrics, denim needles, jersey needles, stretch needles, and so on, but I just use a universal needle. So from the times when I sewed clothes, I of course still have those jersey needles, for example, stretch needles, and I have, as you can see, a lot of universal needles here. The brand is Schmetz. I think there are also other brands. I will try to link those needles for you down below in the description box. And I'm using this one. I don't care about the data that is written here. To be honest, I haven't figured out what information they shall, they contain for the sewing process. I don't know. And I don't care because they work for me for paper perfectly. And I think, honestly, sewing on regular paper should work perfectly fine with pretty much any needle you already have at home. So don't rush out and buy anything new. Just try the needles that you already have at home first. Okay, now let's talk about thread. So these are all the sewing threads that I have. And most of them are leftovers from my garment sewing days. And yeah, this thread rack was originally a vintage wooden pasta drying rack, and it belonged to my grandmother. I added those wooden, how are they called, dowels, and now it works perfectly as a thread holder. And here I have an old shelf, and I have some more threads in here, and still the thread for my overlock machine, scissors, and the bobbins. I will tell you about the bobbins in a second. So if you are buying new thread, I really recommend avoiding the cheapest thread you can find. Low quality thread tends to produce lots of lint and often has a rough surface. For example, let me quickly show you a cheap thread. So here you can see this thread here has a really rough surface. I hope you can see that in the camera. So you can see that here, this is very rough here. Over the time, that lint can build up inside your sewing machine, causing problems or even damaging your sewing machine. So spending just a little more on good quality thread is definitely worth it. So this is a high quality thread from the brand Goldman, and I think you can immediately see the difference. Yeah, I mean, the blue thread is not that rough, no doubt. Yeah, and this is better for your sewing machine. So I know you sometimes get those sets at the discounter where you have 24 or 48 different colors of thread for a few euros. I would not buy them. I would always buy the thread that costs €1 more or €2, and then you know what you have with those threads. So if you've watched my art journaling process over the past few years, you noticed that I mostly sew with neon thread, or sometimes black or white, of course. For example, those dangles here, I used a black thread. If you've missed the video where I made these and all the other scrap projects here in my basket, I will link the playlist for you down below in the description box. Yeah, and the neon thread that I used up until now is from the brand Gütermann. So it's these threads here. And they come in a set with obviously yellow, green, orange, pink, and I think a white one. I will try to link this, of course, for you down below in the description box, as well as all the other supplies that I'm going to show you in a few minutes. Just a quick note, if you purchase something through one of those links, I receive a tiny affiliate commission. It doesn't cost you anything extra, but it helps support my channel and my account, and I really appreciate that. So I love those threads, but recently I started looking for larger spools with even brighter neon colors, and that's when I found this set. I especially love this color here. This is a neon orange. I love that. And each of those spools contain 500 meters of thread. So I think that should be enough for the upcoming projects. So of course, now I have one problem. So the problem, of course, is that those spools don't fit on either of the two thread holders anymore. So this is one thread holder here, and the other one is here. And I mean, I can of course put this here, but this won't work because yeah, it's way too big. So I had to buy a new tool, and this is it. So this is a thing where you can place the spool here on this, I don't know the word, thing. And it simply sits next to my sewing machine. And then I can thread the thread here regularly where it has to go all the way through my sewing machine. So I'm going to do that now. And then I haven't tried. you could already see that. They are brand new. I haven't tried the thread yet, and I don't know if this tool is going to work. So let's try it. Of course, we don't need the black thread, so we will just remove that. And then the thread goes here. Don't know if you can see that. And this obviously is different with every sewing machine. But you should have always those guiding arrows, and they show you where your thread has to go. So for the first step, we obviously need, you know, the bobbin for this thread. So for the bobbin, the thread goes here. Oh, this is really hard with just one hand. And now I have to grab a bobbin here. Okay, here are my bobbins. And talking about bobbins, for a while I kept having major problems with my bobbin thread getting tangled. Sometimes the bobbin would even jump right out of the bobbin case here, and it drove me absolutely crazy. And eventually I took my sewing machine in for servicing, and they immediately pointed out the problem. And listen carefully. I wasn't using the original bobbins that were made for my machine. I used those cheaper ones. They caused the problem. So let me show you the original bobbins. And you might think, okay, they are exactly the same size-wise. And yes, this is probably true because they fit in the slot here where they are supposed to be. But you can see the original ones have fewer holes in here compared to the aftermarket one. And I think that caused the problem. So since I use the original ones, I don't have any problems anymore. So let's wind some thread onto the bobbin. And let's see, this is the first try, if my tool here, oh, this is really hard to film so that you can see everything here. It should work like this. Let's see if this tool here does the job. Okay, that looks absolutely perfect, doesn't it? I think that worked. Okay, now let's remove this table here so that I can show you the compartment where the bobbin goes. So you open this one, you remove this, and obviously there is the black bobbin. I mean, you can of course combine two different colors. You can use black as the bobbin for the bobbin here and pink for the main thread. But yeah, I want to show you the whole process. So of course I want to have the same color here. And this is a thing where you can make regularly mistakes, you know. If you put the bobbin here in the wrong direction into this thing here, into this, I don't know, holder, then everything gets tangled. So you have to check out in which direction you have to put the bobbin in here. I hold the two things like so, not like so, like so. And then the thread has to go here from the right to the top and not like so, from the left to the top. Okay, so like so. And then I just place this thing here. And then you see this notch here. You have to take it here. And then where this hole is. I think this process should be similar to each of the sewing machines, but I don't know. Please check that. I might be mistaken, but I think this is pretty the same procedure with all the sewing machines, but you know, I don't know. Check it out. So then this goes in here, and I'm always pushing until I hear a click. Okay, it's in here. You can leave the thread here as it is, doesn't matter. So then I put the table here again. And now I thread the upper thread. So, and here is an interesting thing. Let me zoom a little bit. So here my machine, and I think most of the machines have these automatic needle threader, and they are life-saving. I mean, you can take your tweezers and put the thread in here in the needle. That should work perfectly, but yeah, I have this automatic tool here, so I use it. Tuck. And the thread is in the needle. So for the presser foot here, most of the times I use this all-purpose presser foot. This is a totally regular standard presser foot that comes with every sewing machine. I use this in 99% of my projects. But of course, I also have other presser feet. What I also love is this free motion quilting foot. I will show you that in a second, how I use this. So I have this book page here on which I jelly printed, and I want to make a quick, fun coin envelope or envelope. So I'm just folding this the one side up. I'm not measuring anything. The other down so that I can have a flap here. And now I'm just going to sew. I open this again because if I would sew now here and here, this would be shut, you know? This is closed and I would never be able to open it again. So I open this flap. And now I'll sew all the way around. So I have this button here, and I pressed it because I want the needle to be in the medium when I stop sewing. And this is the end position of the needle, you know, when you stop sewing. You can also have the end position that the needle is up. I just press this again. Then here the arrow, you know, points upwards. And this says when I stop sewing, the needle is in the position where it isn't in the medium anymore. So I hope you can understand what I mean. You can see here, I stopped sewing and the needle is in the medium, so I can't move this. This helps because now I want to lift, or I have to lift the food. The needle is still in here. I turn this around and I can go on sewing. Oh, and now we have a perfect occasion to show you that nothing works perfectly, because obviously the thread tore. You can see here I sewed, but there is no thread. So it is the bobbin here, obviously. Oh no, it is not the bobbin, of course, because I don't have the thread here in the needle. It is not the bobbin. So we'll fix that quickly. That can happen, you know. It's just a sewing machine. I hope that this is not because of the thread. I keep these leftover pieces because I can laminate them. Okay, let's try it again. And in most of my projects, I go around twice and I try not to sew straight, but instead to sew wonky. So now I have these threads here from the accident. Doesn't matter. I will cut them a little bit. And you immediately have a pocket. And I really must say I love this color. Just a little, you know, closure here, maybe an eyelet or something, or two brads here and a thread, and then you have a fun pocket for your journal. So let me quickly show you this tool here. So I have a button here, and when I press that, this presser foot, I can remove this presser foot. It just falls off. And for this food, I must even remove the whole thing. I see, so I have this thing here. I can, you know, where I can remove the whole thing. I don't know how is it called, but it's the whole presser foot, or the, I don't know, the whole thing. And then I can use this one. And for using this free motion, you know, quilting food, you have to drop the feed dogs here. You have here two feed dogs that transport your paper or your medium, your fabric. And with this tool now, you don't want to have that. You only want to move your medium by hand. So I have to drop the feed dogs, and I'm doing this by pressing this button here on the side of my sewing machine. And now you can see here, the feed dogs are in the machine and they won't transport the medium anymore. And now I can sew any pattern I want, and it feels like you know, nearly like drawing. But the difference is when you draw, you move your pencil, of course. And here you don't move the pencil, respectively the thread, but you move the paper underneath. So as you can see, the paper is not pressed in between the presser foot here and the table. I can move it, and that's what I'm going to do. And I'm trying to draw some random shapes now. Look at that. This is so much fun. And you can only do this delicate or intricate design with this free motion quilting foot. Because if you would use your regular presser foot, that would not work. This is so much fun. You would not be able to do this again with the regular presser foot. And of course, you can even write. I haven't done that in a while, and I should do that more often, definitely. You are totally free with this tool here. That's awesome. So one thing I nearly forgot, the thread tension. To be honest, I don't have the option for changing the thread tension on my sewing machine. So I can't tell you anything about the thread tension. When you see that your fabric get kind of ruffled or the paper, then you should adjust the tension. That's all I can say. I could show you with a sewing machine, but I don't have a sewing machine where I can change these settings. That just works for me. And I don't have the feeling that the tension is a problem with when sewing on paper. So I hope I could answer most of the questions. If you still have questions, please leave me a comment. I will try to answer all of them, or maybe even make another video about the sewing process. I mean, you know that I sew on plastic, on laminated sheets, of course on fabric, on bubble wrapping, foil, or how's that called? I don't know. You can sew on those things where you store, milk or something like that, or oat milk. You can sew basically on everything. I don't have the feeling that I'm afraid of destroying my sewing machine, but of course I can't tell you how your machine works. Try it out. Be careful when you try it out. Be careful when you change your needles, of course, that you don't hurt yourself and all that kind of stuff. But I really want to encourage you to have fun with your sewing machine, to not be afraid of not being able to sew. I love wonky stitches. I think every one of you can sew for your journals, your junk journal and your art journal projects. So have fun. Thank you for watching, and I hope I see you soon in my next video. Bye!